What is up, homies? Welcome back to the trailer reaction from Heroes Reforged. We're checking out the first trailer for Ahsoka Season 2. I was just mentioning to the guys that I can't believe it's going to be almost 4 years since the first season has come out. It's kind of insane. I will definitely have to do a rewatch of Season 1 because I remember some things, but there are definitely things, especially as we get towards the end of the season, that I just don't remember 100%. So I think I'm definitely going to need a refresh before we go into this thing. So, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I remember having a really good time with it. It's just always good to see a character like Ahsoka come into their own, you know, like after where it comes from, and then Dave Filoni's whole legacy, and now Dave Filoni gets to do all this stuff, and he's kind of leading the charge at this point. It's really cool to see it, and Rosario Dawson is perfect as Ahsoka, so let's keep the good vibes going with this show, man. I had fun.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm hoping that we see in this trailer, well, okay, so I did see the trailer at D23, but...
Oh, you already saw it? Okay.
To kind of like put Disney on blast a little bit, when I was in the Disney Entertainment Showcase, they announced X-Men, and they kind of just like rolled right into this. And I was trying to do stuff for X-Men and Marvel, like post. So I was like, I had my head down halfway during this trailer. So I watched some of it, but I didn't watch all of it. So some of it is not going to be super familiar to me. So that's my one thing that I'm like, can we have like a 3-minute pause in between every segment? So when you go from Marvel to like Lucasfilm to Walt Disney Animation, I have time to like catch up on the social meds, because that shit was impossible. They were just like steamrolling through everything. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna have to miss this beginning part. Either way. All right, you guys ready?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Tell me, Ahsoka. What troubles you?
Oh, hell yeah. Damn, Hayden Christensen looks great.
By your side.
Yeah, dude.
Citizens of the glorious empire, I have returned.
Oh, yeah.
Our boy Thrawn.
I took an oath to protect the empire. I therefore declare war on the Rebel Alliance.
Yep.
Ooh, the Vavitches.
Oh.
What did you see? More and more danger than I thought.
Baylan claimed to have knowledge of a power.
Master!
One that could end
Who
wars.
is that? Chopper, baby! Yeah!
Zeb, Ezra, hell
A long
yeah.
time ago, I walked away from the Jedi.
This is your trial, Ahsoka. Take your time.
Oh.
What was that? That's right.
That was, what's his name?
Jedi.
Captain Enoch, I think? Oh, and Huyang with the lightsabers? Come on.
Or not.
Sick.
Anakin's got to stop pressuring her, dude. She's got to do her own thing.
Are you or aren't you a
Yeah.
Jedi? God damn it.
What are you, damn it?
Pick a side.
Calm down, my guy. What if she doesn't want to be nothing?
While I was at the panel, that's one of the things that Dave Filoni talked about that I caught, that he was mentioning, is like, this season definitely is going to be Ahsoka kind of coming to terms with like, who is she going to embrace? Is she going to embrace being a Jedi, or is she just going to embrace being, you know, her own thing, whatever that is, whatever category she wants to put herself in, if any. But that's part of kind of the journey of this character this season, which I think is really cool.
Do you guys think we'll ever see Ahsoka die? Like, do you think that it's ever going to get to that point? Because we don't need this, but it's like she has become such an important supporting / central character in the Star Wars mythos that, like, do you think these storytellers feel the need to explain, well, why wasn't Force Awakens about her? Why wasn't The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker? Like, we hear her the way we hear these other previous Jedi, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker. When Rey is calling upon the power of all of the Jedi, we hear her. We hear Ahsoka, but do you think they're going to do something like, and then she dies, and that's why she's not recruited by an older Luke in The Last Jedi, or I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Dave Filoni and team will feel the need to, like, we covered the beginning of this young character when she was a little kid, all the way up through almost feeling that ownership of, like, we've covered this character the way a lot of the Star Wars characters, we see their kind of beginning, middle, and ends. I don't know. What do we think?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that because Dave Filoni kind of basically created Ahsoka, I think he feels very precious about like protecting her and her storytelling. So I think that if anyone's going to do it, it will be Dave Filoni, who will tell a completed story of like whatever, and also I think part of it's also going to depend on like how long does Rosario Dawson want to play the character, and how long will Disney let this show kind of go on for. As much as I would like to think that like, oh, it's probably a big hit for Disney Plus, I also don't know exactly how the numbers were affected for season 1 when it came to the strikes. So I do think that season 2 will probably be a better indicator. Well, actually, I don't know. That's also like maybe not even like a thing to worry about, because I think the show kept coming out, so people were probably just watching it no matter what. But I don't know. I think it's also interesting because we're at a time in Star Wars where we're not getting as much Star Wars as we were even back when season 1 came out. We had The Mandalorian and Grogu that did really mixed numbers and mixed reception, and that is a streaming show that became a movie. This is another season of a streaming show, but I feel like Ahsoka season 1 generally was really liked by fans. I know that Star Wars fans, they're their own worst enemy sometimes, and they sometimes will hate anything that they put out. But if you're just looking at it from like a general perspective, I feel like most people that I talk to, they seem to really like season 1. So I also think the thing that Star Wars kind of suffers from is like, from these shows at least, is making it feel like that they can do more than just filming everything on the volume. So I think like a lot of those considerations have to be considered, where it's like, how many seasons of the show will this go? Or how many seasons will the show go? And if they get, let's say, 4 seasons, will they wrap up Ahsoka's story? I don't know. Like, I don't think Dave Filoni feels any sort of obligation to tie up a loose end that explains like why she's not in something like The Force Awakens.
Sure.
Because I also just think it's such a long period of time too. Like at this point, it's like 26 years.
And it's the same thing can be said about like, well, why isn't Thrawn active? I know Thrawn's a bit of an older character, but like, I don't know. It's very interesting to think about like, will these storytellers right now, the Filoni and Favreau story team, will they like sort of do their take on, here's what happened after the Star Wars original trilogy, and here's what we would have done. It's just a little bit sooner than the sequel trilogy, like than when that era is set. They can still set things up and tie into things and point to that trilogy, which I like when they do, and I wish they did more of. But I wonder if this is going to lead to like the Dave Filoni movie that we were told is happening, and I think is still happening. Like, is this going to be a season 2, and then instead of season 3, it's just a movie like The Mandalorian and Grogu? Or are they rethinking that strategy and going, maybe Ahsoka will just stay? Because this feels epic. I will say this season this has become now the Star Wars show. It's not Andor, which was like, Andor is very different than what you're used to. This, I think, has taken the mantle from The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian has become its own thing, and I think the Mandalorian show / movie is maybe the most accessible Star Wars thing in recent years, and even that can't help but get bogged down by like, and now here's Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker, and now here's Rada the Hutt. This is Jabba's son in the movie. Like, there's still things that are here's the Anzellans. There's still obviously things that are pointing to the larger Star Wars franchise and this and that, but it feels like the most accessible thing. You can watch the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and maybe if you didn't watch all of Rebels, you're fine. You still know that's a tall purple guy that's kind of like a Chewbacca. You're fine. Like, they're mostly all new characters. This is the show that feels the most like, okay, I hope you've seen 7 seasons of Clone Wars and 4 seasons of Rebels and know about the older lore of the origins of the Star Wars galaxy, where the droid comes from, and the myth of the Mortis. Those episodes from Clone Wars where you which is a Dathomir, like all this deep lore. This is the show where Dave Filoni is cracking his knucks and showing off and being like, you better know your Star Wars lore, or to best appreciate this, you will be somebody who's really immersed in the lore, which can be really exciting. But I'm also just along for the ride at this point with Star Wars, and I'm excited and ready for various YouTube videos to explain all of the lore to me that I will explain, baby. Remember. Oh, they're the best. They're the best. So that's fine. But like, whereas I think a couple of years ago, I had much stronger feelings about like, oh, this is what Star Wars should do. This is what I really want to see these characters do. This is now I'm like, hey, man, it's great. Do whatever. It's fine. I either like I got what I wanted or I didn't get what I wanted. You know, there's been times where the franchise and the people working on this stuff, you know, whether it was in their control or not, people at Lucasfilm or people at Disney or whatever, past couple of years, I've been disappointed with decisions. I've been disappointed with cancellations. I've been disappointed with, we're doing all this stuff. Actually, we're not. It's like, okay, that sucks. I wish.
Oh man, that Investor Day 2020, you know, they announced like 8 things and like half of them never came to fruition.
I know. So I don't want to be the fan that's like, hey man, Ahsoka season 2, that's rad. I'm still waiting for the Lando project. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that's like, I can already tell now the comments are going to be like, here goes Hector again. All these is negative, all this is negative. No, dude, I love Star Wars. This looks fantastic. I'm super excited about it, but I'm also not as, I guess I just don't feel strongly as I used to a couple years ago about the lore specifically, about like, oh, here's what this is leading up to. I'm like, dude, do whatever you guys want.
Well, and Filoni's movie,
I trust them.
Yeah, Filoni's movie, they also briefly, the way it's kind of been advertised, it's like it's the wrap up of all of these Disney Plus New Republic era shows. So it's Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett, all this stuff. I would assume that it's almost supposed to feel like kind of the same way that like the books Heir to the Empire, the trilogy kind of wraps up Thrawn's story. But I do think that I would not be surprised if maybe they, I don't want to say reconsider, but maybe they're having conversations based on how the Mandalorian and Grogu did about, okay, is it still feasible to make a big budget Star Wars action, space, lightsaber, crazy, big budget Hollywood movie that is the closing chapter of 4 different shows that people have to have watched in order to understand what the hell is happening in this film? Because if the movie starts and the movie spends 30 minutes kind of setting up things that everybody who's watched the show already knows, you're kind of wasting plot time. But then if nobody's watched it and you just jump right into the story, are people going to be like, well, I don't know what the hell's happening because I haven't watched every single one of these shows. I missed Book of Boba Fett. I missed season 3 of The Mandalorian. I didn't watch The Mandalorian and Grogu. You know, so I think that's the kind of tricky territory that they're in right now, is figuring out, okay, if we want to make movies, do we just need to focus on movies that an audience member can walk in off the street and go, okay, cool, I know exactly what's happening? Or are they going to be ballsy and try to do this movie that closes off and kind of completes this whole saga of the New Republic era? But what's the risk? What do you gain? What do you lose? I don't know. I feel like they must be having those conversations.
The trick too, like you're talking about, Adam, is if they do that movie, if there's going to be a movie that's like, that feels like Thrawn's final assault, some sort of big war against the Rebel Alliance, you know, and they don't do a lot of fan service or a lot of like, hey, because you have to like pay off or reward a loyal audience. If they saw every episode of the Clone Wars and then Rebels and then read all these books and you know, it's like you do want to tell those fans, hey, thank you for being invested.
We see you.
Here's this. This is the moment. We see you. You know, characters going to be referencing things. The story itself will feel like a culmination of X, Y, and Z. It's really difficult to do. And I do not envy anybody who has that task ahead of them. And I totally also understand like the Mandalorian and Grogu opting not to really do that and just trying to be a fun sort of adventure. But at the same time, as a Star Wars fan, you can't help but feel, you go see Mando and Grogu and it's like, there's no new Force thing. There's no sort, you know, Grogu didn't talk. Like, it has to feel like there's a big push forward in this ongoing story. Spider-Man Brand New Day felt like that from the marketing. And then when people went to go see the movie, even though that's a part 4 that really needed you to have seen at least part 3 to really get what's going on. It still kind
of feels like a part 1 in some ways.
But exactly. And they filled it full of characters that like, sure, would you have gotten more out of it if you'd seen every episode of the Punisher series and then Punisher One Last Kill? Sure. But like, you didn't need to. It's such a tricky balance that we're talking about. And I want Star Wars to succeed in a big, bold way. So like, yeah, I would imagine it might be easier to market and sell a Star Wars movie that's about a big war that happens after the Return of the Jedi, including that involves all the heroes and the Mandalorians there and Boba Fett's back. But then it's like, do you have Luke, Leia, and Han? Because they're there.
Right, like where are they? Where's Lando? Where's all these characters?
Like, like, I don't want to see CG characters. As them. I don't want to see, but at the same time, you know, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion. I don't really feel like it would be worth it to do a recast. I just want to leave those characters as is. I'm like, there's got to be a story you can tell that is a big thing that acknowledges, like, yeah, they're over there, but we're here. We're looking at these characters. Don't worry about it, you know? Because I like, there's nothing to me that's worth it to go, we needed Luke in this story. Why? We have so much Luke. We're good on that. But then how do you do a movie that's about a big Thrawn war where he's attacking all of the heroes of the Star Wars universe? Like, that's super tough. But anyway, this season looks dope. It looks great. Yeah, good luck. Hey. And I'll see you in hell. Like, yeah.
I was waiting for you guys to talk about the trailer.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Sorry.
It's cool. Yeah. I mean, look, it's almost too much to consider.
Yeah.
And you're right, Hector. I don't envy anybody who's in charge, specifically Dave. Like, I don't envy any of their tasks. Because they could give us all the lore whore stuff that we want. And trust me, I am a lore whore, especially when it comes to Star Wars. But at the same time, the lore is what's keeping it back. And I hate to admit it, but like fucking Luke, Leia, and Han, get the fuck away from those characters. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop. Get away from Anakin.
Hey, I was trying to be nice,
we're seeing
brother.
him here. Yeah, no, dude. Get away from him. Like, cool.
Augustine went for the head.
We love Anakin. We love Hayden Christensen. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But brothers, let's move the fuck on. Like, it's time. Ahsoka needs to do her own thing. Like, let's break away from all this stuff. And I just don't see why we have to be so beholden to all of the things that are going on. It's just even to me, it's kind of killing my enjoyment because I'm just like, okay, all right, so what does the future of Star Wars look like? Are we just gonna keep seeing Ghost Anakin everywhere in everything?
Right.
Like, what are we gonna do?
To be fair, I think what I was trying to say, and I want to get back to this, is you're absolutely right, Augustine, but this is not that show. This is not Star Wars Visions. This is not Andor. This is not something that is really going to do a new style. This is the most classic Star Wars you can get. And I think that's awesome. And I think we're like, I totally hear what you're saying, but at the same time, we were all excited to see Chopper. So it's like, this is what this show is. This is the show that is it's going to deliver the lore for us lore whores, and it's going to, show these characters off, and it's going to feel like a continuation of Rebels, and it's going to feel like a continuation of, everything, expanded universe, legends, all of that stuff, everything that's canon. I trust them all in that. I'm just saying, I recognize that, and I think that this is super, super well done, and it does make me a little bit nervous about, like, what is this because this era, you just said, Augustine, is this the future of Star Wars? No, because this is also a story that is set technically in the past of the Star Wars that we've already seen. I mean, so was Andor, but that did stylistically such a departure that it felt so fresh. But this is another prequel. This is all technically leading up to the real direction change is going to be either this Ryan Gosling thing, which feels super different, which Adam can tell us about it because we weren't at D23 and he can talk to us about Starfighter, or it's going to be when all of these dominoes line up and it's the Rey movie, the post Rise of Skywalker. That's going to be like, what are we doing there? What's the style of this? Are we finally stepping away from all these characters we love? Like you're saying, Augustine, like, dude, this is such a great use of an Anakin Force Ghost.
Yeah.
No better place to use it. No better place. But those other projects, I think, are going to be the ones where we're really like, can we do something super bold and daring, and push it? And I think this is going to be very like exciting and intense and also feel very classic. And I just trust Filoni and Favreau to deliver with Ahsoka season 2. But to be fair.
I almost feel like in some ways shows like Ahsoka, not so much The Mandalorian, but I think Ahsoka specifically because it's carrying so much history with it, is that it's meant to really just be not exclusively, but a big appeal of it is it's for us and the younger audiences who grew up watching Clone Wars, Rebels. This is the only way you're going to get to see a lot of this stuff in live action. And I think a lot of people for years wanted to see a live action Clone Wars movie where you got to see Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, all these actors. So because we never got that in the early 2000s, this is sort of like, hey, we heard you, we couldn't do it back then, we're doing it now for you. So I do think that there's a place for projects like Ahsoka that tap into like the lore and the timelines that we know and love, and we let characters or actors like Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen come back and get more to do. But I also think, and I almost kind of wish it leaned a little bit more into having things like Andor. And I haven't seen, none of us have seen Starfighter, but I hope it's really good. You know, something like Starfighter that takes place 5 years after the Rise of Skywalker, where we're now going into territory that's like uncharted. You know?
Is that when Starfighter takes place? It's 5 years after?
5 years after Rise of Skywalker.
There we go. I didn't know that. I thought it was another.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, even though that might have some baggage with the original trilogy, it's clearly after all of these characters, which I think is great. Now, don't get me wrong. I am excited for the show, and I am going to watch the shit out of it because I do love this stuff. Like I said, I'm a lore whore. But there's just like, I feel like we've been circling the same story my entire life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
the story's been really focused around like 6 characters.
Right, exactly. And I think I'm just spoiled. I feel spoiled by Star Wars Visions. I feel spoiled by like I showed one of my friends who was not a big animation person or even a big extracurriculars of Star Wars watching. Like she doesn't have a lot of time for it. I showed her the episode of Star Wars Visions, the one that looks like it's little puppets. It's done by the South African studio.
Oh yeah.
It's the one where the little girl can change red Kyber into clean Kyber.
With the song, with the vibrations.
Yes. It blew her mind. And I was like, this is the kind of Star Wars we need to be showing people. Like, Visions did it. But I feel like you need such a big, wide release for people to realize and break out of this cycle that it's in. Because I also feel like the cycle that it's in is emboldening all of the Star Wars fans that hate Star Wars. Like, if you're going to hate Star Wars, hate the stuff that like we've been dealing with for the past 40, 50 years, whatever it is, like that stuff. But like all the new stuff, like, let's be excited. Let's be fun. Yeah. Let's have an open mind. Let's be curious about things and what Star Wars can be. And again, it sounds like I'm putting down the show. I am not. Rosario Dawson is amazing. I think the Thrawn stuff is going to be
Ezra
fun.
again.
Yeah, man. Seeing Ezra, seeing Chopper, like seeing that whole crew is dope. And I had a blast with the last season. But my mind can't help but wander of like, okay, like, when am I gonna not be excited to see something like this? You know, like when we're telling the same stories again and again around the same characters again and again. I'm like, okay, I hope Dave Filoni just has something up his sleeve where I'm just like, okay, let's take Ahsoka to that place. Like you were saying, Hector, earlier, does this series end with Ahsoka dying? I don't think she has to die. No, I think she can choose to break away from all of it, become a hermit, and tell her own stories, and not deal with the bigger issues. She could be more of like a quote unquote street level Jedi Force user person who just has, is helping the universe in her own way. And the reason why we heard her in Rise of Skywalker is because she can still commune and sense things in the Force and just like, encourage Rey the way that she did. So like there's tons of options that we can do for this stuff. I just, again, I see the potentiality in all of this stuff. And this comes from a place of me wanting Star Wars to be big and grand again and being nervous and excited to watch a movie like this in the theaters again. Like I really want to have that feeling again that I had when Force Awakens came out. You guys remember how excited we were to jump in the theater and like watch these movies again. I want to have that feeling with this franchise again. And right now I'm not having it, but I'm still excited for some of these projects that are coming up because I feel like it could lead up to something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying.
Well said.
Well said. It's criticism, but I want it all to do well. Like I really, and I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for Dave. I'm rooting for Disney to like, keep it and bring it up to a level where everybody can like scream and make lines in front of a theater with their with their lightsabers and like dress up and, you know, want to be in that theater when that first opening trumpet sound hits and just, that's what I'm looking for again.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, part of it is also filmmakers just coming in and having interesting things that they want to do with Star Wars. And I think sometimes it's hard because maybe this isn't the case, but maybe a lot of the filmmakers who've come in and had meetings with Star Wars are like, well, what if we did something in the original trilogy era or in the Clone Wars era? Like people maybe are coming in and pitching things that are all set within these eras that we're all familiar with. And maybe it's Lucasfilm going like, yeah, but we'd like to try something new. Like, what do you got? And maybe that's why something like Starfighter was really appealing to them, because they're like, oh, that's new timeline we haven't dove into 5 years after the last movie we've done. It's a little bit uncharted territory. Like the Empire and the First Order are seemingly dissolved. So yeah, and I mean, I think even when it comes to, well, it's a little bit tricky too, because if this story is wrapped up in a movie where we see the fall of Thrawn and the dissolution of whatever's left of the Empire, at a certain point, the First Order is going to, you know, come to power and rise.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do think, though, that because it is like a 25, 26 year gap, like you should be able to tell stories where you don't have to touch any of that stuff. You don't have to worry
100%.
about Luke. You don't have to worry
100%.
about Leia. You don't have to worry about Han Solo, Kylo or Ben Solo, like none of that shit. There should be stories that you can tell in that era where it's like, hey, so far everything in the galaxy, you know, it's been 8 years since the fall of the Empire. Thrawn was defeated. It's been quiet around the galaxy. Like little things have been popping up, but nothing extremist has been happening around the universe. Like it's all been pretty good, and we're going about our business. And maybe there are interesting stories to tell, and like you can maybe have hints towards the First Order, but like mostly stay away from all that stuff. And a lot of the characters that we see in the sequel trilogy would not even be alive or would have any sort of like a big enough presence to have any sort of a role in a show like that anyways. So yeah, but I mean, in terms of this show specifically, like I am looking forward to seeing what's going to be the next part of Ahsoka's arc and story, and you know how she's going to come to terms with like who she is as a character. And I think that's the one thing that I do appreciate, and I understand like why they use the flashbacks, because it's constantly diving into eras of Star Wars and moments in Star Wars that didn't get explored in Clone Wars. So getting to see young Ahsoka, her interactions with Anakin Skywalker, and see like what, you know, maybe Clone Wars, the animated series, for the most part, even though that they had some disputes and they had some disagreements, and it ultimately led to her leaving the Jedi Order, you know, can we dive a little bit deeper into those moments in this type of a show where we have the time, we've got these 8-hour-long episodes where we can really just kind of flesh out, okay, what kind of terms were these two characters on towards the end of her being his apprentice? I think could be really good. And when you have Ariana Greenblatt and Hayden Christensen, you know, dressed as those characters, it looks really cool. So storytelling wise, I'm excited for all those moments and to just get a little bit more from Ahsoka and see where her relationship with Anakin goes in the future. But I also just want to make sure that these, and I think this will happen based on what we've seen, you know, I want to see more of Ezra specifically. We didn't get too much of him in that first season because, you know,
season 1,
we took a while to get to that reunion. So I do hope that season 2 we get to learn a lot more about Ezra and like what happened with him and where he's been and who he is as a character since Rebels. Like I want to know how this Ezra Bridger is different from the final season of Rebels versus season 2 of Ahsoka. So that's a lot of like the stuff that I'm really looking forward to.
Can Ezra speak whale at this point? Hello,
I'm a Jedi.
Space whale. That'd be good.
Yeah. I mean, seeing Huyang with all those lightsabers is like, come on, man.
Dope.
That's some dope ass shit.
Yeah.
He's older than Yoda.
We ain't gotta worry about that shit. Like that shit's gonna be dope. Like that's gonna be dope no matter what. You know, and anyways, before I get back into it, I'm just going to cut myself off there. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. I'm very, very, very excited to check it out. And you know, we'll see. I think it's like some of these shows on a week-to-week basis, it's hard to kind of see or tell like where it's going to go. I really feel like it's always going to be that last episode with all these shows that we go, okay, Was that satisfying? Did that add anything to the characters, to the lore? You know, and some of the show, I mean, like Andor season 1, Jesus Christ, that ending, you get to the ending, you're like, wow, wasn't expecting this show. And the way that that show so beautifully just ties directly into Rogue One was really, really great. And I think because also going into that show with no expectations, I think that really helped the experience. Whereas with shows like Ahsoka, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, everyone's going into it with expectations and what they want to see, and everyone's expectations and hopes and dreams are different. So, but yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I'm looking forward to it either way.
Yeah.
Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. How are you feeling about Ahsoka season 2? Are you looking forward to it? Do you have any apprehensions, or are you just in it for the ride? And
I got a question for the for our community, for our viewers watching.
For the chat,
put in the comments.
For the chat, yeah.
How do you see this little era, Ahsoka specifically, the character, this show, this season, leading into a movie? How do you see it kind of wrapping up? Let us know in the comments. Do you want a movie?
Good one.
Do you want to see Ahsoka like die and become one with the Force? Do you want to see her ride off into the sunset the way Agustin described? Like, how are you feeling about that? Let us know in the comments. I'm really looking forward to seeing how people are like. People are kind of feeling that out right now. I'd love to know where the fans' heads are at. So, thank you.
Great question. Let us know. Let us know. Check out everything else we're watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
That's why we are watching.